Hello and welcome to the Will to Win podcast. This is Alex Muir, helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. And in today's episode of our special guest series, we have Stephanie Scheller on the episode today. Stephanie is the co-host of the podcast Black Belt Selling. She's a founder of Grow Disrupt. She's a 2-time best-selling author. She built her business from scratch while she was working a full-time job. Within 5 months, it became successful, and she's been a professional speaker nationally for the last 5 years. She's a TEDx speaker. She's the Forbes 30 Under 30 nominated last year for 2019, and she's New York Life Woman of the Year nominee for 2020, and Woman's Business Owner of the Year for 2020. And she's born in Texas and currently resides in San Antonio right now. So without further ado, I welcome you, Stephanie Scheller. And this episode is brought to you by RadioGuestList.com, the #1 free radio guest, podcast, and talk show guest expert interview booking service on the internet. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I'm excited. How's it going?
Good. I'm super excited to have you on. I was just doing some background research on you there and found some really cool stuff. 2-time author, TEDx speaker, background in sales and training, management. Yep. Yeah, cool stuff.
And I just got another award last month. The National Association of Women Business Owners gave me the Woman Business Owner of the Year award for 2020.
Congratulations.
Right? So super excited. So not all of the bios have been updated to reflect that, which I should get on, but we'll get there.
Wow. Yeah, no, for sure. So appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of questions to ask you for sure.
Oh, good.
Because I actually have a background in sales myself. I've been in sales for the last 6 years. And most recently, I transitioned from banking, financial services. I was a financial service representative for a Canadian bank because I'm from Canada. I was doing that for 4 years in Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And then I transitioned into actually marketing. So
nice.
Because I just realized that financial services, it was a huge passion of mine, but I'm very much more creative. And I just feel I couldn't service, my clients to the best of my ability without, having that creative leverage. So marketing is kind of it's one of those areas where I just feel I have a lot more freedom to help my clients, and it's a different area, right? So
yeah, I agree. Like that was one of the things that that was actually one of the reasons I left my corporate job, was because I was like, I wanted to get into the marketing. I wanted to get into marketing and helping people my way. Like when I was working my corporate job, right, I had to do what they wanted me to do. And half the time it was in the best interest of the company, not in the best interest of the client. And so for me, that was like such a big piece of like, I'm done having to screw people over because we have to do what's in the best interest of the company. Like, I feel like we should do what's in the best interest of the client, and the company will be taken care of. So
no, exactly. And that's the thing. I feel like it's a big tug of war nowadays. It's like you're trying to do what's best for the company and the client, but you can really only do one or the other. And if you do what's best for the company, then you end up getting burned because the client's like, well, I'm not going to work through you. I'm going to go through someone else who's has my best interest in mind. Right.
Yep.
So that's what I came to realize when I was finishing up at the bank there. I was just like, because of if the system in which you work in, depending on the business that you're working in, if their system it's not congruent with your core values and your mission on which you're trying to deliver to your clients in your way, you will not succeed and you will not maximize your potential to the best of your ability.
I agree.
I just felt like, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your clients if you're just not selling the way that you are meant to sell.
You are
developing those relationships. Yeah.
Right. And like the whole thing, like the disservice to yourself, like that's the thing in sales. Your brand is going with you. Like I know people who are like, oh, well, after I'm played out with this company, I'll go to another one. I'm like, you're going to have to go to like a whole new city, dude. Like, I mean, at least for us, I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and like, it is the biggest small town you've ever been in. And everyone knows everyone. It's like your personal brand becomes part of how successful you're going to be in sales. And, you know, I'm really grateful I got out when I did before I did any damage to my personal brand, because that company was just not great for that.
No, for sure. Yeah. If they're not a fit for you, then you're not going to be able to really deliver that top-notch quality service, right?
Exactly. And I think that, you know, part of why I never achieved the same level of success there that I have now. I mean, which it's not going to quite correlate, right? Because being my own business owner versus working for someone else.
Oh yeah, no, but, very, very, very different.
You know, I definitely didn't live up to where I could have. And I look back and I'm like, but the company culture wasn't really set up to help me do that either. So
no, exactly. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And then I also saw that you built your business from scratch within 5 months of leaving corporate.
No, that was I was actually working my full-time job, and I was working the full-time job, and I started the business in May. And then at the end of August, I actually had made more money part-time than I had full-time. So I turned in my 2 weeks notice, and they made me work my last 2 weeks. And so I walked away at exactly 4.5 months after starting my business.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a whirlwind. I get asked a lot of questions about it. Half the question, I'm like, I don't remember. Like, I was working really hard.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it was fun. And it's been cool that I've gotten to help a couple of other people do the same thing since then. And that's really liberating to me.
It's extremely liberating, because that's another reason that's like one thing that really stuck with me when I was reading your bio and everything, is being able to do that. If you know exactly what you want to do, you're just not quite sure how to do it. Because I know exactly what I want to do right now, and I am doing it, because I recently got laid off work March 19th. But everything's good. I'm just, been working on my business, because just like yourself, I've still been working full time.
Yep.
I was working full time up until March 19th of this year.
Yeah.
And then got laid off because of the COVID crisis.
Yep.
So then I'm just like, you know what? I want to learn. I want to use this kind of as a vacation time.
Yeah.
To just hone in on my skills and what I really, really want to do. Yeah. Because my goal is, I don't want to be employed forever. I want to be an online business owner and be working on my blog and this podcast full time. Because I know there's huge potential.
Yeah.
Like anything, if I can get online, which I've already been kind of fine-tuning my online presence over the last, I'd say, 3 years. Between I recently started my blog within the last year, and it's for helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. So it's like you said in your bio, maximizing human potential. That's what I'm fascinated with, and that's what I want to help people with.
Nice.
Because of my background and like in banking and up until now, and kind of my personality, I feel like I can really help people with that kind of stuff. It's a combination of psychology and physiology.
It is. I'm so glad. Like I get so juiced on talking psychology.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. I love that.
Yeah. So that's why I'm really happy to have you on. And so that's really interesting about, how your process of, transitioning from full-time job to full-time in your business.
Yeah.
And you were doing it part-time the entire time.
Yep.
That's really incredible. So did you just do your business within that window, or were you still working your business, in between, mornings before work and evenings?
Yeah. So my day would look like, getting up at I'm not a morning person. I'm still not a morning person. So I would get up at 6 to be out the door at 7. But my goal, what I did change, I started getting up at 5:30 so that I could be out the door by 6:30. Because if I was out the door by 6:30, I could be in the parking lot by 6:45, and I could be working. So then I would work. Like if I left at 7, I'd be in the parking lot at 7:30, right? So I just started getting there, just a little bit before 7, so I could work. from like 6:45 to 8:15. And then 8:15, I would walk into the office. So I was at my desk by 8:30. I would work till lunchtime. And then at noon, I would walk back out to my car. I would go back to work in my car till 1:00, walk back into work. I would work till 5, walk out, drive home. And, usually getting home around, getting home and changed out of work clothes around 6, get some dinner, back at work by 6:30, work until 11:00 at night, 11:30, 12:00, going back to sleep, waking up, doing it again the next thing. And then Saturdays and Sundays was just, waking up and working, 8 hours in the business. So, So that when people are like, oh my gosh, so, I can't believe you worked at part-time. I'm like, well, it was technically part-time, but like by the time I actually turned in my 2 weeks notice, I was working around 30, 35 hours a week in the business.
Wow.
In addition to working 50 hours a week for my corporate job.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do. And I think that's why so many people really struggle with that.
Yeah. No. And I'm really happy you really gave us a breakdown of how you did it, because literally that before I got laid off, this has literally been my routine. I would do it. And I'm not a morning person either, but I recently, I don't know if you've ever heard of the audiobook or the paperback book, 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like a lot of these authors say, sometimes all it takes is a certain statement, quote, or phrase that reframes your thinking on something. Mm-hmm. And I read this book, or I listened to it because I'm big on audiobooks now, and then I just read on my Kindle. I was listening to this book, and it got to this point where in the beginning of the book, she talks about the reason people struggle so much about getting up in the morning is not because they don't want to get up. It's because they need something that's going to block their brain from getting, you need something that's going to block that thought process of like, where you hesitate when you wake up. We have that 5-second window of hesitation where we're like, the alarm's going off, but I literally have a window to go back to bed or just put it on snooze. Right. So most people, like myself, opted for the snooze button for a long time. And I would still get up decently early, but I still wouldn't give myself enough time to really focus on the day at hand. Because not like doing this 5-second rule, all I changed was it's just a mental countdown in your head. You're like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
Get up. And then now that I've kind of coached my head into getting up, my cat gets me up earlier than that now. But
darn pets.
But yeah, but lately, ever since I was doing it since I started at the beginning of February, and literally it's been working. It's been working like clockwork. Wow. And it was just one of those things where I just had this mental block, and the only mental block was just reframing my thought process and just using that 5-second window to give myself a mental countdown to wake up.
Well, yeah. So we get into like these habits, right? Because our brain, and this, right? But our brain operates in habits. And so everything we do, it's all about like, change blindness, right? How do we survive in a world where we're literally receiving billions of bits of information? I don't even like I can't remember the exact number anymore. We receive so much data every single day in our, like, just going through our day. The only way our brain survives is by using this change blindness thing, right? And so we get into these habits. We get into things where, the brain is allowed to operate on subconscious, where we're not thinking about it. We're not processing. We're just doing. And so as long as you let yourself continue inside of those habits, you're going to keep getting the results you've gotten for the rest of your life, right? Until you start to break out of those. And, I super applaud you for like breaking out of it before, things got, I assume before things got stupid painful with your work. For me, I didn't start taking action. I wanted to replace my income. I tried a couple of times with like some network marketing companies, but I never got serious, and I never did anything until they started screwing with my commission check. And that was when all of a sudden I got really serious about this, and I was like, hold up, like, and that was when, but it was the pain, and I really work hard to try and help people like, hey, you can do this without without having to hit the pain point. It's entirely possible to, not put yourself at the point of pain. And instead, take action prior to that. But I think a lot of people really struggle with doing what you've done.
Yeah. Yeah. And, honestly, it's taken me a while because I've actually been through the same process. I tried a network marketing company, Isagenix, and then I tried an affiliate marketing company, and I was doing them at the same time while I was working full time as well. So it was a little insane. I just, I was in that shiny object syndrome phase where I was a little bit younger. I just, boatloads of enthusiasm and excitement. I'm just a very excited, energetic, young guy. And I've always been that way. And even to this day, going through a little bit of pain, like you said, and a little bit of failure, I still am excited. I'm still like crazy enthusiastic, but I've just learned. You learn. Okay, I've done that mistake before. I'm not
doing that again. Yeah. One of the
right. So you learn.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. I was just gonna say, and what I did like about the network marketing and the affiliate marketing was they do teach you entrepreneurial habits. And then for a price point, which is much lower than if you were to kind of make your own, your own business space, let's say. Like if you create your own business, depending on what it is, let's just say it's like a bricks and mortar business, that costs a lot of money. Yeah. And right. And the way things are going nowadays, I just see light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of small business owners if they change things up. If they don't do the standard bricks and mortar, if they're open and willing to do something digital, online, podcasting, blogging, or a combination of a few of them, because the amount of streams of income that you can make, the residual income, that's what I'm trying to build. Because if like you said, if you do it right once or twice, then it's all you have to do is make the right decision a few times, and then that income can pay you for the rest of your life.
Well, and I don't want to seem like because I know people get super, super uptight about the network marketing thing, and you're spot on. It does give you a great opportunity. I think the problem most people run into, and it's the same problem I ran into, is that they don't because it's such a low investment, right? They don't take it seriously, and so they don't go all in, and they don't really they don't relate it to. We talked about your brand as a sales rep, right? They don't relate it to my whole brand. Like if you're going to sell Monet hair products, right? That needs to be your brand. Like that has to be who you are. And too many people try to be, well, I'm this other person over here. Oh yeah, but I also sell, Monet hair products. It's like, no. As long as, your network marketing company is a side project, you're going to make side project type money. When you actually own it and go, okay, no, this is my thing, man. Like, this is what we're doing, y'all. Then you will start to make real money. And then you will, things change so quickly from that point. But that is, I think, the biggest issue with most network marketing companies is that it's a small enough investment that too many people treat it like I hate the word side hustle, because side hustle makes it sound like it's not important to you. And I'm like, no, this needs to be this is your life. That's your money. This needs to be direly important to you. Like you can't be treating stuff like a side hustle. Either it's a hustle and you're working and you're making stuff happen, or it's not. But don't lie to yourself. Right. And I can be harsh because that's exactly what I did for years. Talking to 7 years ago Stephanie. So.
No, and I can totally relate to that because there was points where I didn't take it seriously, and I was just, and I also didn't take it as serious because there was just I would be working on it smoking hard for a few weeks, and then I would it would die down because I was just I was frying myself out because I was just doing too much and I just wasn't managing my time good enough because I was trying to take on way too much while I was working full time. And and then even though I was only working 40 hours a week at the bank, I was still pulling in 3 hour, literally right after work. I would go on these conference calls, not for Isagenix, but I would do Enagic, it was. And then we would there was the seminar for people that wanted to view the opportunity. That was once a week. That was on a Monday or a Wednesday or something. And then Oh yeah, right. Wednesday was the mastermind with the team, where they would show us techniques on how to, build our sales funnel better, and help draw people to our website, because they design our landing page for us, and then we just had our investment in the business, and then so it was a great learning experience. I learned Facebook advertising through it, learned a lot about social media, and but. Yeah, I didn't make any money, and so I'm like, got to cut this out. So it was costing me more money, and I wasn't making any money. So I used it as a learning experience.
And that's that's one thing. When I started my business, I was freaking out about what am I going to do when I fail, right? Because you hear that every successful business person has failed at some point, right? And so I had this fear that I was going to fail and it was going to knock me out of the running. Like I would be just, knocked flat on my back, and that I wouldn't be able to, keep going, right? That the first time I failed, because I was always, so, this going back into the psychology thing, right? So this goes back into like high school and college. I was a straight A student. Like the one time I got a B, I got a C from one of my instructors on an essay I wrote. And I was so pissed. I sat down like right after class. I was like, hey, I just wanted to know why I got a C on this assignment. And like, and when I pointed out, like I'd done everything right, she hadn't read it very well. And so she gave me the A. But like, I was a straight A, and there was no like grades are final, right? So when the grade is in, that's the grade you get. And so if you fail, like you failed, you can't fix that. You can't go back at the end of the semester and be like, oh wait, hold on, my GPA dropped too much. Can you help, right? You don't get to do that. And so when I started the business, I had this like residual, like it has to be good, because there's no negotiate. Like I can't do anything with it. And that was something that I learned was, you're going to fail. You're going to screw up. I had several big failures that I didn't even realize. Like I look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, I really screwed that up. Huh. I'm glad I didn't realize that was a failure at the time, because I wasn't mature enough to be okay with that. But as long as you learn from it, it's really not a failure, right? Because it was a lesson, and we pay for coaches, we pay for schooling, we pay to learn. So sometimes you just pay in time and energy and agony instead of in money.
I really like that. Pay to learn and pay in time and energy and agony. That's really well said. Yeah. Because that's Eric Worre. I don't know if you've heard of Eric Worre, but he's like the godfather, I guess you'd call him, for network marketing, and teacher. And that's his famous statement is, there's no losing or failure. There's only you learn or you win. He's like, if you're not quite where you want to be yet, you're learning. You're still that learning phase. If you are, you're at that phase where you figured it out a little bit, and you're in that success wave, then you're winning. But you're always going to be either learning or winning. It's always one of those phases. So I really like the way he said that, because entrepreneurs can get really discouraged, or anyone in their career or their business sometimes, and you're just like, oh my God, like you feel like a failure. Well, it's not that you feel like a failure. It's just, that's just, because of the media and how they portray businesses, business people and stuff, and how hard it is and stuff. And yes, it is very difficult, but I just feel the payoff is just so much larger to ignore because of the freedom. I'm obsessed with freedom. I want to be able to wake up, if I want to be able to wake up and be like, you know what, I'll sleep in today, or I'll take the day off, and money's still coming in. And I know it's going to take me years to build that, to get my business up to that point. But I know I'm on to something though, with building my online presence right now with the podcast. And like already you're my 10th interview in 2 weeks. Yeah. It's been the most remarkable experience. I started using this platform called radioguestlist.com, and it was by the writer Scott Fox. I read his ebook called Click Millionaires, and he literally gives an encyclopedia of excellent information on building your online brand. So whether that's affiliate marketing, Google ads on your blog, blogging. He gives literally A to Z, everything in between, or what you need to know to really start building your audience and your online persona. And it was excellent. And I signed up for it. I'm like, oh my God, like people are actually getting back to me and like for interviews. And I'm like, this is absolutely astonishing. Like I was so blown away, and I've been excited since day one, since I started getting the messages. And like, and as soon as you sent me that email, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to have this person on, because I want to find people and be able to connect with people that are on the same wavelength as me, and that we relate, because you gotta, like they say, you're the combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life. And even if I'm not face to face with someone nowadays, with everything going on, if I can still glean your wisdom and those golden nuggets from our conversations and a podcast platform, then that would be just another way to give back to my audience and to give back to people, right? Because people need to hear these stories and to hear that it is possible to make things happen.
Agreed, right? And I think it goes a long way, because there's this concept called the mirror neuron. I don't know if you've done any kind of research into it, but basically what they found was that when one monkey would do something and other monkeys would watch it, the brain would fire as if the monkey that was watching it being done was doing it. And then they started to do research, and they found, humans have this thing called the mirror neuron too. And so they started to realize, like, just watching someone else succeed can help set you up the right way, right? It cuts your learning curve, which to me, so like cutting the learning curve is one of the things I'm absolutely obsessed with, because we only get so much energy, right? So the way I teach people, I'm like, hey, your most valuable resource is not your time, and it's not your money, it's your energy. You can have time, but you have no energy to do anything with it. And do you really have anything of value? Right? No, you don't.
Right.
So you have to protect your energy. And why I think so many small businesses go out of business within the first, 3 years is because they waste their energy on way too many things, and then they don't get the return, right? So now they're sitting here and they're exhausted. They have no return for all the energy they've put out. And so they decide to shut the thing down and move on, cut your losses, and, be done with it. And to me, if you can cut the learning curve, you cut the wasted energy. Because when I started to get my business to the point where I was putting my energy into the things that when I was working inside what I call my energy advantage, right? The things that I love to do that give me energy, that give me juice.
Yeah.
Once that happened, the business started rapidly accelerating. I mean, I've really gotten into my energy advantage in the past 18 months. And you can see what's happened. Like, you can just watch the trajectory of the revenue, the reach, everything has shifted because I'm staying in what I'm great at. And it means that the business is creating more and more return. And so to me, cutting the learning curve comes down to, can I avoid wasting my energy? I only have so much energy, and everything I do with my energy, I want return on. And so that is my major obsession in business.
Yeah, no. And actually, honestly, that's a big part of my brand is it is how to achieve mental and physical performance. But how do you get there is energy. You need to have a lot of energy. And my content is all about how can you get more energy? Well, great sleep, great diet, lots of exercise, right? Yoga. It's all the little things compounded over a very long period of time that has helped me achieve huge amounts of energy. And I'm only 27 now, and I know I'm still young, but if I keep this routine up, as far as that's one thing that I'm absolutely laser focused on. How can I sustain long-term energy? And everyone that knows me, they always say and I know I'm probably going to go through phases where I don't have a lot of energy, because some nights of no sleep, or, in the future, if me and my girlfriend choose to have children, I know I'm going to go through phases where I have no sleep and I'm not going to have a lot of energy. But despite that, people always say, oh my God, Alex, Jesus, you have way too much energy. And I'm like, you know, some people like they're just like taken aback. They're just like, oh my god, like how much sleep did you get last night or whatever? I'm like, well, you know, 7 hours or whatever. And I felt like I got 10.
Well, but like that's
so,
the thing. If you can,
it's just
you know, human optimization, right? If you can set yourself up, you know, one of the things I'm getting back into when I was in college, I was really good about this. I had a phenomenal routine, nighttime routine, right? So I went and I did, you know, this, then this, then this, then this. And so I could get by on 6.5 hours of sleep, right? And be high performing because that sleep was quality sleep, right? Most people don't get quality sleep.
Yeah.
And
no, they don't. It's constantly interrupted. And that's actually the problem. That's what's causing the, like this, you know, tired and wired.
So, right. Yeah. Cause then you're exhausted. So you get coffee, which then makes sure you're not going to sleep again well the next day, the next night. And so it's a terrible cycle, but it really is coming down to like, you know, hacking human optimization. What can you do to make sure that you are performing at your peak? And that's something that, you know, it's really, if you think about it, like it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like a higher level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to have the basic core pieces. You have to have, you know, protection and food and security, right? But then once you have those pieces in place, you can start. This is why, you know, growth curves look like hockey sticks, you know, a lot of the times, because you're growing a little bit and then all of a sudden, like, you get everything lined up. You're able to really, really grow as opposed to when you were, you know, just trying to stabilize things. So, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And like that human optimization component, that's what I'm trying to help people with, is like, I've learned a few little small things over the years that have been huge for me. The first one that I want to mention, which I don't know if you do it, but it's a huge part of my routine, is I meditate every day for five minutes. Just a small session, 5 minutes. If I'm feeling more bogged down mentally, I'll do 10. But they say to really feel the effects of meditation and to really have that mental, you know, being mentally neutral and just like you're not really letting things phase you as much and you're really more in tune with the present, is like 15 to 20 minutes a day. But I get really antsy after 5 minutes, so because I'm like got a million thoughts going on in my head. So I'm like, okay, keep it to 5 minutes, because I'm all about consistency, and I started doing it after, just as I was leaving the bank, because I was so stressed, and number one, I was having too much caffeine. I was having 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day, and in sales, like so many people drink so much coffee, but it's not good because you're constantly wired, and then those crashes.
Like that's one of the things. So I've noticed, like if I do coffee in the morning, I need a nap like by 2:00, and then of course I don't sleep very well, and so it turns into this, you know, vicious, ugly cycle. Consistently, it's rough. But I kind of forgot where I was going with that. I had something I was going to add, and it jumped out of my head.
It'll come back. It'll come back. But one thing I did once I was able to cut the caffeine. I've failed at cutting caffeine for a number of years, but I was able to cut it around this time because I was doing some reading on it. And when I was trying to cut it the first time, what I was doing was I was literally trying to go cold turkey on it, and that doesn't work. Like that is almost impossible to do. If you've got a big caffeine addiction, which I had, because it was just so habitual. And if it's so habitual and you've been doing it for years, it's going to take a lot more. You got to really ease into it more. So the reason I was able to do it around this time was I went from, because I cut down my consumption down from like 4 to 6 cups a day down to 2, and then from 2 down to 1. And then from 1 down to like half a cup. And then I went down to decaf. And cause everyone's like, oh, decaf. And I was like, decaf. I mean, I'll try it. And cause what I was doing before, I went straight from coffee to tea to slightly caffeinated tea. And it kind of worked, but it's still, I love the coffee taste. So I'm like, okay, I gotta meet in the middle a little bit. So then I went to decaf coffee, and I'm like, and I still drink 2 cups of decaf a day because I just really don't need any caffeine because I'm too sensitive to it. So that's why I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'll cut it out. My energy is always good. The only time it's not good is if my eating's off or my sleep's off or I haven't trained
regularly
enough.
I try to be super careful with the amount of caffeine that I drink because I am super sensitive to it. And so I want to maintain that sensitivity. Like I want to be at the point where if I'm really struggling and I need a cup, one cup's good. Right. I know people who, my husband, for example, totally. I love him to death, but like, he's like, he can drink coffee like at 9:00 at night and be falling asleep at 9:15. And I'm like, what the heck?
I wish I could do that.
But like I don't know. I'll get into phases where I drink it a lot, but I really try not to. But you said, like, you had a good point there. And this is something I talk about a lot to people. And I tell them, small changes are sustainable. Because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who, like I had one lady I was working with for a while, and oh my God, she would just get into like modes where she'd be like, all right, we're fixing everything in the business, right? So she goes and she resets her success schedule and she reblocks her calendar and she does this. Like she would like uproot her whole life, change everything. And it, like the very next day, she would do none of it, right? Like she never even got to a single day of actually doing everything she had planned because she was like, okay, well, I'm going to work out from 5 to 6 and then 6 to 6:30. I'm going to get breakfast and meditate. And then 6:30 to right. She would plan and it never happened. And I told her, I said, you got to stop doing this because what's happening. It's too big of a change. Your body can't adapt to that. And so it revolts. Like change is not good in our brain's mind. Our brain is like, oh my God, change is dangerous. Right. Yeah. If you've seen The Croods, I laugh about that. Right? Where the dad is like, don't be afraid. Right? Change is bad. And that's the way our brains think. And so I'm like, you got to like sneak the change in, right? A little thing. All right. I'm just going to commit to getting in 5 minutes of movement per day. Like intentional movement. I'm not going to work out every day. I'm only going to commit. I'm going to set a timer and I have to move for 5 minutes, whether that's walking up and down, like whatever, right? Small changes. And then what will happen is it grows from there. And that's the goal. But it is funny because I see so many people who are like, I'm going to redo everything. And I'm going to quit cold turkey. I'm like, that never works. Almost.
Yeah, I've done it and failed.
I did remember so you were talking about meditation and so I do meditate. I'll do a little meditation every morning. And then throughout the day, one of the things I have learned is that if I'm starting to get flustered, like if I'm going from meeting to meeting, like today was just back-to-back meetings. And I was reached a point about 1:00 where I was starting to get a little flustered and I was starting to get a little frustrated. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Right. And I pulled away, pushed away from the desk and I went and I sat down. I've got this little like on the floor meditation chair and I sat down in my chair and I just did a 5-minute meditation. And I find like in the morning, it helps kind of set me up for the day, but then taking that 5 minutes throughout the day, cause I'm like you, like ADD cannot freaking do. A coach who was like, you will never have fully lived until you do a 40-minute meditation. And I'm like, I was like, well, then I guess I'm never going to live, dude. Like, it's not happening. I've been meditating for 2 years now. It's not happening.
Yeah. No, same. Like, and that you said it right. Like, you like, even Tony Robbins, he does just his 3-minute breathing exercise. Okay. Like, I was listening to his podcast on, the way he does his morning and, I can't get as little sleep as he can get, but I picked up a few success principles and like his big part of his morning is kind of the shock therapy with the cold to hot. So he goes, hot to cold. He does like the hot sauna and then he'll go do a dive into like the really cold, ice cold water. Like he's got like a pond or something or whatever. Or he just goes in like to a really ice cold tub or something. Yeah. Or cryotherapy, whatever. And that's part of his routine. So he does that. So it like really primes the body mentally because you're just like, oh my God, whoa. I'm rearing to go. And he doesn't take any caffeine, doesn't take any drugs, nothing like that. Just priming the body. And then he does his breathing exercise. And that's kind of his form of meditation. But again, small. That's only 3 minutes daily. It's not 10 minutes. It's not 40 minutes.
Yeah. And, and it's interesting to me because I think that a lot of really, high-powered, high-performing entrepreneurs, while I do think it's really important to have that, and that you may need to dedicate some additional time to build up to where, like, someone starting with just 3 minutes, like you may start with 3 minutes, then you may get to where you're doing 10 a day and then get back down to 3 once you've really primed yourself to be really like hyper-focused and be super effective with it, right? But, like, I don't know very many really high performing entrepreneurs that do, 40, 60 minute meditation every day. Like, to me, I'm just like, yeah, that's like, do you understand how much I can get done in an hour? And I can get that done whether I meditate for 5 minutes or 40 minutes. So, like, to me, the benefit is, and someone's going to email me going, well, Stephanie, I will tell you what the benefit. Okay, to me, the additional benefit of meditating for 40 minutes versus 5 minutes, 10 minutes is so, there's not enough additional benefit to be worth the extra time to me. So.
No. To me, like on the research that I've done, it's unnecessary to do you don't even need to do 20 minutes. Like, you can get the benefit in as little as 3 to 5 minutes a day. But just like when you have an afternoon nap, they say meditation can give you an extra 2 to 3 hours of productivity. So, right? Because again, that realigns you.
It does. So I teach this. I do a whole class on emotional quotient and building your emotional quotient, and we talk about how do you build your emotional quotient, right? So one of the big things we talk about is, in order to build your emotional quotient, and I don't know how much you know about EQ, Alex, so, or your listeners too. So I'll kind of do like an overview and then I'll get into my actual point here.
Sure.
But EQ has been linked to increased profit margins. It has been linked to increased sales numbers. It has been linked to increased culture and happiness, employee happiness and engagement, right? So it's linked to all these things. And, the leaders having a high EQ is shown to be incredibly beneficial. So a few years back, I started, working into, okay, how do I increase my emotional quotient? And I never do anything halfway, apparently. So I went off and I got licensed to teach people this stuff, because I wanted to learn it for myself. So I figured I may as well figure out how to teach it. So I go off and I go through this class, and the way we teach EQ is we talk about, okay, so unlike IQ, your EQ is not like your IQ is static. You get what you get, right? You're born with it. You have what you have. You can't really do much about it. Like, depending on how much you go drinking on Friday nights, you're gonna die with about the same amount of IQ you were born with. But EQ changes, and your EQ will change from childhood through adolescence through adulthood, because all EQ is your ability to understand and influence the emotions of yourself and others. Right. And so it kind of all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can see why, a sales rep with a higher EQ is going to close more sales. I can suddenly understand why a leader with a higher EQ is going to have a happier team. Right. Because if I can understand where my team's emotionally, I can then influence them to get them to the right place. So all of that said, when we're teaching people, okay, how do you increase your EQ? We talk about the fact that it's like a muscle. In order to increase your EQ, you have to go to the gym for your emotional quotient. And going to the gym for your emotional quotient is what we call staying in clear glass, right? So when you're in clear glass mode, that's when you're operating at your maximum EQ, because you could have an EQ of 90, but if you're not in clear glass mode, you're in what we call red glass mode. You may only be able to access 60 or 70 of your EQ, right? You may not be able to actually access your full EQ depending on the mode you're in, right? If you're really in red glass mode, you're really not thinking straight. You're in fight or flight mode. Your body is coursing with hormones. You're stressed out. You're freaking out. Like, you're not going to be able to access your full clear glass. When you're in clear glass, you are more creative. You're able to be more adventurous. You're more willing to take on risks. You're able to work with a team better. Red glass mode happens when, anything can be a drop of red in the glass, right? You think back to like high school, or I think this was like elementary school, that science experiment where you had to do like drop red food coloring in a glass of water. And like you were checking,
right.
what was it? I can't remember, but where it got so where you couldn't see through, right? So you put 1 drop in, it doesn't really change the glass. You put 2 drops and 3 drops. The more drops of red you put in, the darker the glass gets. And sooner or later, you can't see through it. And so that was the science experiment, right? Is that the higher the concentration of something, the more it'll influence, whatever. And that's your red glass, right? So every stupid little thing that happens is red glass. So you wake up late and you don't get to do your meditation for the day, right? That's red glass. You stub your toe. That's a drop of red. You get a phone call from someone that you don't like. That's another drop of red. You like all these stupid little things. I mean, literally anything can be red. And some people and activities are more red glass drops than others. But we get into this red glass mode, and to clear the body of the hormones and the actual physical reaction that comes with being in red glass mode is actually a 8-hour process for each drop of red that hits your system. So every drop of red hits you.
Holy moly.
And that is a surge of hormones. And this is a cocktail of 3 hormones that hit the system. You start going into fight or flight. Your digestive system slows down. All of the blood is going to the major muscle groups, which means it's not in your head and all this stuff. And for every drop of red that hits you, it's 8 hours for that to clear your system naturally. And so when I do the training, I'm like, so think about this. How many hours of sleep does the average American get? Which means we're never at clear glass mode naturally. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Because that's compounded negative thoughts from just getting lack of sleep. Yeah. Because naturally you're getting less sleep. You're going into even if you get up early, your productivity plummets 20 to 30% by getting and it cuts the amount of productive and creative work that you can do during the course of a day just by getting less sleep. So if someone gets more sleep than you during the day, they're gonna have a better position to be productive, and they're gonna be better in a team environment, and they're gonna be able to relate
and the
to
reason for that is
empathy.
because they've cleared more of that red out of their system than you did, right? Because as soon as we wake up, red glass starts hitting again, right? We get all these drops. But the cool thing, so the good news is what they found was that doing certain activities, 15 minutes of an activity can clear an entire drop's worth of red from your system. And meditation is one of those activities. Yeah. So meditation, journaling, napping, and exercise were the ones that 15 minutes of that can actually almost reset your entire system. So there's a little science behind why meditation helps so much.
And journaling. Oh, very good. No, that's good to know. Yeah. And I also think that part of Tony Robbins' routine is using this principle because he does things in such short bursts. Because again, for the way he trains, it's all about, he trains for longevity, and that's the way his trainer trains him. He keeps, it's all about heart health and, lung health and all that. So he takes his his green juice concoction in the morning to get all the blood flow going. And then his omega-3s and the greens and all that stuff. And he takes that first thing. And then I think he hits his weights, his machines, but he doesn't do free weights. He does it's all about push, pull, leg movements, but resistance. So, and he just does 15 minutes a day because he says that's enough stimulation with these machines that he has in his place to simulate a positive response to the body. So he's stimulating the muscle, but not annihilating the muscle. And I'm someone that can tell you that I spent a lot of time annihilating my muscle when I was younger. So because I thought, 1,000%, 1,000% or 0%. If I'm not doing 1,000%, then it's not effective. Nope, wrong thinking. I did that for a number of years. And I probably just put excess stress on my body when I didn't need to. Excess exercise, and we actually only need 3 to 4 days a week or less. And as long as your diet's on point, you can afford to miss a few extra sessions.
Very few of us are ever gonna need the kind those muscle man guys. I'm like, really? Who needs that much muscle?
No. That's to be a bodybuilder. I do. I absolutely admire the work ethic.
Oh my God,
it's an extreme discipline. But most of them, like the majority of the population can't do that.
Well, and most of us don't need to. Like, what are you going to do with that? Right? Like, I'm all about efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? How is that efficient or effective? Put in enough effort to get the peak result. But I don't think you need to put in if you're getting like, and this is where and it depends on the situation. So we'll throw that out there. But if you're going to put in 10% more effort and get 3% more return, you have to weigh whether that 3% more return is actually worth it, right? Because you reach a point of diminishing returns where it's not worth it anymore. And so, that's, So anyhow.
Yeah. And Tim Ferriss talks a lot about that actually as well. That's a big part of his vocabulary. He talks about the minimum effective dose.
I totally forgot. Yeah, he
MED. And I absolutely love it because I live by that. So I live by the MED, minimum effective dose, and I live by the 80-20 principle. So I really try and think about things in terms of, only 20% of the activities that I'm doing is really correlating to 80% of my returns right now. Or, the percentage could be 90-10. It could be, I don't know. It varies from person to person. It could be 70-30. But when I think about things in terms of that, what's just the absolutely minimum viable amount of time or energy I need to spend on something, then it really helps me look at my day a little bit differently. To really maximize my output. Minimum, like you said, minimum input to maximize, minimum output to maximize.
Depends on how you're phrasing it. But what's the minimum amount of effort for the maximum amount of return, right? And then at some point it's just not worth it to put in the extra effort. And I know my audience, when they hear this recording, they're going to be like, "Oh, did Stephanie actually say that?" Yes. I know. I said minimum amount of effort for maximum return. Because I do this whole thing where like every talk I do, everything I ends with, effort is earned freedom for overcoming real tempests, right? That's an acronym. And tempest is just a fancy word for storms. And we all have storms in life. And so you got to put in the effort to get past the storms, because when you do, you're in the freedom to have whatever life you want, right? So my audience is going to freak out when they hear me talk about minimum effort, maximum return.
I know it's like a catch-22, but the principle behind the statement is just is just making sure that you're aware of the energy that you're putting out into things. That it's not that you're not overdoing the energy, that you're just putting it towards the things that are actually going to move.
Spot on.
That's all. Yeah, because a lot of people don't know how their day is set up.
Oh my gosh, that kills me.
If you're not tracking
I talk to so many business owners who have no clue. I'm like, okay, so where did you spend your time this week? I don't know. I'm like, are you kidding with me? Like, I track my time religiously down to the minute.
Yeah.
I know where my break. I even started tracking breaks.
Yeah.
Because I realized I needed to. Like, I needed to be able to tell that, okay, hey, I did take a break here. Oh, hey, I did take a break here. Like that. Oh, that just blows me away when people are like, whoa, I mean, I'm like, no. How are you not tracking this stuff?
Yeah. I definitely don't track everything down in the minute, but I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on like my routine as of right now. But I track things by kind of my calendar and by activity. So I have a spreadsheet. I started utilizing that from Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. That would have been probably a year ago or last summer. And ever since then, I've been tracking weekly activities, like the weekly activities that I believe will help move the needle for me and put me like to build my audience on my business, or to because when you're an online entrepreneur, a lot of your business is content creation, right? So that's a big part of my daily routine is like, okay, how can I put out out my weekly blog post or YouTube video, right? Got to get out a piece of content. So I either batch process it on a Sunday, or I'll do it like the morning, like, cause I have extra time on my hands right now. I'll do batch process, a few videos for the next few weeks in the morning. So that's kind of how I do the time management. I base it off the activity, and then I kind of be like, okay, this is going to take me probably an hour or 2 hours. And then I just basically
like
do,
you plan it in, right? So
one
you're
activity
putting
after
a
the
plan
other,
together, and then you're following the plan. And like I don't track non-work for sure. The break, now I do like the breaks, but like I don't track like what I do when I'm not working. But I see, that was the other thing. Like I built into it, right? This is the small changes are sustainable, right? You start by tracking. You're tracking what I call the baseline, right? What are the key core activities that need to be repeated on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that are going to produce the result you want? So you're tracking the baseline, and then you'll grow. And that's the other thing. That's why I, when people try and do the Tony Robbins thing or the Grant Cardone thing I'm like, they built into their systems over years.
Yeah.
And you thinking you're going to just be able to run Tony Robbins system or Grant Cardone system or Tim Ferriss's system, just overnight is just crazy. Yeah.
No. It's very incremental. Like and then even Tim Ferriss in his podcast, he says like some of my methods will not work for you. It just won't work. Like and I've tried a lot of his methods, and I trust the guy's judgment because he has he's got all of the data and the science to back what he's talking about. That's why I trust his judgment, because he's interviewed people in literally every field at the top of their field. And he's been able to get some success principles and routines.
He's straight up with, hey, if this doesn't
aspects of their routine from
this is what we found to work consistently across the board for a lot of people. So if it doesn't work, this isn't gonna. I love Ferriss. I follow him too, and he is super straight. Hey, some of this may not work, and if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But here's I love his Tools of Titans book, right? Because there's so many good things. But if you notice, there's a wide variety for a lot of these guys. And that I think that comes down to personality and
very wide variety.
There's so much that comes into play with success. There's no way you can follow someone else's path exactly. So, and by the way, I know we're almost done here, but there is a killer thunderstorm starting to build up outside. So if I disappear, I've lost power. I know we're almost done anyhow, but I'm sitting here looking outside and hearing the thunder. Oh my gosh.
Oh dear. Yeah. No, that happens. I know it's kind of crazy weather right now. Like where I'm from in Canada, it's been sunny pretty much every day. We did have our phase there where it rained a ton. It rained for a few weeks, and now we're on to really very, it's been very consistent sun. It's been sunny and windy.
So usually we're very rainy through March, and it's April now. And so, but we didn't have a ton of rain in March, and now we have a ton of rain in April. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So, but I don't know if you've ever had the blessed opportunity to live through a Texas thunderstorm. Holy crap.
Oh, no, I haven't. No, but I really want to visit Texas though, because it's just Tim Ferriss actually moved from San Fran to Austin. And he's saying it's one of the best places he's ever been, is Austin, Texas.
I'm a fan of Texas. Just gotta
Austin,
say,
San Antonio.
No, I don't want more people moving here. So no, never mind. It's terrible. So Dad was military, so we were all over. But I was born in Texas, and then I spent a lot of my childhood in Texas. But I also spent childhood in Washington State and Alaska, and then my early adult life in Ohio, going to school, and then I moved back to Texas because I like cold weather.
Oh wow! Yeah, for sure. And for your kind of your self-study on how you learn and stuff, outside of your business and stuff, what is your process for keeping up the learning? Do you read a few books per month?
That baseline concept I mentioned to you, I have a baseline for personal growth too. So I am meeting with one of my coaches every week. And that could be, my mindset coach. That could be my business coach. That could be my speaking coach. It could be my marketing coach, right? So I've got all these different coaches because I'm a big believer, I want to learn from the person who's the expert at this thing, right? Going back to that cut the learning curve. So I meet with one of them every week. I read a minimum of one business book per month. I go to one business oriented or growth oriented event per quarter. So I make sure that I'm going to it. And this is not a let me go to this thing for this afternoon. It's these are 2 and 3 day events where I go. Usually I'm leaving the city. I'm going to another city and I'm, participating in an event. Sometimes I'll put on my own retreat where I put together an agenda for myself and I'll go rent a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. And usually that agenda includes watching, videos, reading books, and doing some strategy exercises. I get on a lot of podcasts, which holds me accountable to listen to a lot of podcasts. So I do 2 podcasts per week. I record 2 podcasts a week, which means I'm also listening to anywhere from 2 to 5 podcasts a week as well. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that is how I hold myself accountable to continue personal growth, my personal growth.
Yeah, no. And I can really relate to that. That's how I do my baseline tracking for making sure I get all those core activities out. The way I had it in mind was doing 10 calls a day when I was at work, doing 10 sales calls a day, putting out or curating, because I'm in a promo marketing business. So it's we help clients with their branding. So branded swag or branded apparel. So a big part of our business, because we're B2B, is curating presentations, preset presentations per industry. So let's say it's construction industry. So then we'll do curated presentation on branded workwear, high-vis vests with the logo on it, all these different items, right? Or branded pens, branded drinkware when they're on the work site. Everything that's correlated with what the business does, we try and find a branding option for that, because every business needs branding. And that's the beauty of the promo marketing industry. It's no one really knows about it, and it's not super big in Canada. It's way bigger in the US. But ever since I started this job, I've just been absolutely fascinated with it, because we can do some very creative things for clients that really make them go, wow, this is awesome. And I'm so glad that we're able to reach out to you guys to be able to get this done. Yeah, we get to hear company stories, right, of how their brand came about, and then we get to really reiterate that story through how we brand their products for them. So yeah. So, and then I want to talk briefly. I don't know how much extra time you got here, but I wanted to ask you about your TEDx speaker or TED talker. How long ago? When did you do that last speech?
Coming up on the end of 2016. It might have been 2017, though. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember my own TED talk year. The years blur together. I can see when they posted it to YouTube. And I can tell when it was, but it was fall of whatever year that was. Life Lessons from My Horse. That was 3 years ago, so that would have been 2017. So that was really a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. I've had people who are like, why don't you go back to why don't you go back and do another TED talk? And I'm like, oh my God, do you have any idea how much work that was? I was probably spending a good 6 hours a week for 3 months just working on my TED talk, which and then the week before I easily spent 15 hours practicing and prepping, and it's been great. And I will totally do it again. The timing just has not been quite spot on. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. The biggest things I learned from doing that was really get clear on what, for people who want to do TED Talks, because I know a ton of people who would come, they're like, oh my gosh, I really want to do a TED Talk. Get clarity on what your big idea is and how it's different, right? Spend time and get exposed to other TED Talks and look at what they're talking about, what they are and aren't saying, and spend that time really getting to know the best thing I ever did was I read Chris Anderson's book, TED Talks. He's the, CEO of TED, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. And it gave me a really good perspective on, oh, hey, this is what they're looking for. This is what makes a TED Talk so unique. And it's not just about getting on the red dot. It's about so much more than that. And it really is about becoming part of a community. I'm still in touch with people that I did my TED Talk with. And I'm still in touch with people. I curated the talks for the following year, still in touch with those guys. There's a lot that goes into a TED Talk. It's an incredible, it is a life-changing experience.
No, for sure. And I just find it they just talk about big ideas that really get you thinking about things in a different context. And
they're a lot of fun. And
so fascinating.
There was a period where I was watching probably 3 or 4 TED Talks a week. I'll still go through those phases where I watch a ton of TED Talks and then I'll kind of trail off and I'm not watching nearly as many. And then I'll go back and I'm watching a ton and then I'm not watching any. And so,
wow.
But it's always there in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
We got another couple of minutes here.
I got a few more questions for you. Let's see here. Yeah, sounds good. How do you find the right business for you that aligns with your personality and particular skill set?
I actually have a whole training just on that. Because I think it's something that you kind of have to really dig into a little bit. My mic just fell. So one of the big things, I'm trying to pull up my little outline here so I can stay concise and give you the actual outline, and because I think that will probably be better than me trying to ramble through it, because I could talk for a couple of hours here. And let's see here. Finding the right business. Here we go. I found it. So the first thing I tell people to look at is look for your personal mission statement. What is it that you are here on this planet to do? Right. And you want to ask, the way you find this, you ask yourself, what is it, if I could change one thing in the planet, right? If I could change one thing, what would I change? What would I do? And, then you ask yourself, well, why does this one matter so much to me? Why does this one matter so much to me? Why does it, right? So whatever answer you get, you go through the 5 whys. And you want to figure out, what is it you're really here on the planet to do? And then I tell people, create a list of your talents and create a list of your passions and look for the intersecting industries where you're saying, okay, I'm passionate about, for me, I'm passionate about reducing the size of the Great Garbage Patch, right? The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. But I don't have any talents that are particularly useful in that direction. Yeah. So me trying to be all right, I'm going to start a business to reduce that. I don't have a whole ton that I can do on that. I can donate money and I can do all this other stuff, but it's not necessarily a business for me. Right. Whereas I am really passionate about helping small business owners, thrive in what makes them amazing. And then you start looking for the patterns, what are the real problems out there? So you say, okay, I want to work with helping small business owners thrive. Okay. And then you go, okay, so what are the patterns out there right now that I can really focus on? Okay. Well, small business owners really struggle with marketing. So that's where I'm really going to focus. And so to me, that's really the best. What's my personal mission statement? What are my talents? What are my passions? And where's the intersection of all of these 3 things where I can live up to my personal mission statement while also using my talents and my passions in a way that allows me to get paid and solve problems. All right, I think we have time for one last quick question, then I'm going to have to run.
Awesome. Sounds good. What do we got here?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think we answered most of them. And Oh, yeah. Have you always had a background in sales, or have you always had a passion for
Oh my
sales, or
God, no.
did you work in
I did
a
not want
different
to be a
field?
salesperson. I actually, when I got my first job, I had my first week on the job. I went to school for equine business and facility management. So I was going to run a horse barn. And then that didn't work out because I couldn't make enough money to pay student loans.
Oh.
So I took like a job too, which the way the job ad was written, I really thought I was applying for like a marketing consultant position for small businesses. And so I get this job, and the first week in, I find someone who wants to work with me as their consultant. I'm so excited. The second weekend, I find someone who wants to work with me. The third weekend, I'm doing so well. My boss goes, well, you're not in training anymore. We're going to put you on the floor with everyone else. And they put me on the floor with everyone else. And I go into the Monday morning sales meeting, not realizing it was a sales meeting, of course. And my boss gets up there and he's talking about how you are the best effing team in, San Antonio. You guys rock, you go sell. And I just like panicked. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be in sales. And I sold nothing for 6 weeks because I was so panicked about not wanting to be in sales. And it took a lot of like sitting down and going, okay, I don't have to be that salesperson, right? That guy. There was literally one of my coworkers was like the epitome of a salesperson. He was, the short little guy that, high energy, moving really fast all the time. And he talked like this and had this hair and the straight white teeth, man. And he just had the great, oh man, I got a deal for you, man. Like that was like legitimately how he talked. And I just, he just freaked me out, and I did not want to be him. And when I finally realized I could sell my way as a consultant, I could still consult. I could still help through sales. And that was when things really turned around for me. But yeah, no, I definitely wanted nothing to do with sales. So, but obviously that turned around because my very first business was a sales training business. And now it's something I love and I'm very good at. And I help a lot of other people with building their sales funnels and all that good stuff. But I do it in a way that is, that non-pushy, non-aggressive salesperson. I don't think you should sell so much as have a conversation with a point in mind.
Right, for sure. Awesome. Well, that concludes today's episode there, Stephanie. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And
yes, and I think I might be. There we go. My computer's starting to act up now. I think that storm is getting louder.
Oh, yeah. Don't want you to all of a sudden cut out. I think we're done. Alrighty. Well,
thank you so much for having me on, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for joining, and looking forward to having you on again soon.
Yeah, sounds great. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
I thank you all for listening to the Will to Win podcast of this special guest series. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave me a comment, like, and subscribe to my podcast to hear more episodes like these. And also, leave me a 5-star review. If you enjoyed this episode, you like the content, give me a 5-star review if you liked it. And then if you had some additional feedback for me, let me know that as well. I always appreciate honest feedback because I want to make sure that this show is the best, best podcast and best show for what I'm the message I'm trying to share with my audience about helping millennial professionals reach peak mental and physical performance. Take care.